Hello staff, hello students, we're back in Chef Mel's kitchen because our last video worked really well, so I'm going to make a series of these videos, hopefully over the Easter break. So today we're doing another long shelf life cookery recipe, which all of them will be, and I'm doing a bit of a twist on the sausage casserole. Now most people love a good sausage casserole. Today we're going to be working mostly with sausages and Heinz beans. Sausage or meat and bean stew is also known as cowboy stew. It's what the Americans call it anyway. Because in the West, you know, when there were cowboys and Indians, they used to cook a lot of beans when they were out on the ranch. And the reason why they used to do that is because they didn't have tinned beans like we have, but they would have big packs of dried beans, and they were perfect because that was a long shelf life item, so they could go along their ranches and go along herding cattle and everything like that, and then they'd bring all their dried beans, which they need to soak and boil. Usually you soak dried beans overnight and then you boil them for a few hours, but obviously modern technology, we made it a lot easier, and we're very familiar with this, with Heinz being a brilliant British brand. And I'm going to go through some of the ingredients we're using today. There's only a couple of fresh items, and the rest is all just from the store cupboard, or what I would consider long shelf life. So, I mean, long shelf life I would say would be a month onwards basically, but I'll explain what ingredients we've got. So we've got 8 Cumberland sausages. So these are fresh, but when you buy sausages from the supermarket, they've usually got about a 2 or a 3 week shelf life on them. But also, of course, you can buy sausages frozen as well. And whilst I was looking at this and thinking about this, I realised you can also get, can't you? You can get tins of beans with the sausages already in the tin as well, so you could use that as well. Or you could use those jars of hot dogs as well. Bear in mind that you'd colour them, you'd brown them a bit differently to these sausages. But see, so sausages are a really good cheap product that can be long shelf life as well. We've got the 2 fresh items. I've got half a red onion, and I'm going to say a red pepper because these are absolutely tinsy. I'll just get a standard yellow pepper just to compare to them. But it's cheaper when you buy things to buy big bags of stuff, and I got a big bag of mixed peppers, and they all came in different shapes and sizes, and these are tinsy, so I'm doing 2, but it's almost like 1 really. I'm going to be serving this with couscous. I think most sausage casserole, you either put potatoes in it, so it's part of the whole thing anyway. You have potatoes on the side of it, or mash. I've got couscous and I love couscous, so I'm doing that. Bit of oil to fry it in. Good old Heinz beans. I've got, this is sort of an optional ingredient. I've got some balsamic vinegar. You can use any other type of vinegar, like I've got some cider vinegar in there as well, but balsamic vinegar is good for the colour, because we're going for this really nice barbecue bean flavour, which is, one of my students said she wanted to learn how to do like proper barbecue beans, so I'm doing sort of a twist on that today, so I hope she'll enjoy that. What gives it that barbecue-y flavour, which some of my students will remember from when we did some pork skewers a while back, is smoked paprika. Now when you smell smoked paprika, you immediately smell that barbecue aroma. So there'll be some smoked paprika in there as well as some normal paprika as well. And a bit of cumin, which is used a lot in American cooking, but also in Indian cooking as well. I've got 2 stock cubes, beef stock cubes. You can use pork or chicken or veg, whichever you have. And this is something called passata. Now some of you might not have heard of that. It's not pasta, passata is Italian word. I think it means paste, but you can probably check that out. The reason why, basically all it is tinned tomatoes, but it's been blended up until it's smooth and it's in a carton. The reason why I'm using this instead of a tin of tomatoes is literally when I went to the shops last, they didn't have any tins of chopped tomatoes, so I grabbed this instead. But this was only 40p anyway, so nice and cheap. And just as an optional garnish on top, which is, I would still say, a long shelf life item because it lasts a month in the fridge. But I've got some natural yoghurt, which I'm going to dollop on top as well. The Americans would probably use sour cream, but yoghurt's like so much cheaper and nice. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put these sausages in the baking dish using my lovely global knife that I've had since I was a student, since I was 16. I've got my initials on the hilt there. So these knives have looked after me well, because I've looked after them well. And I get these sausages. Now sometimes, I'll just check, sometimes they have links connecting them. Oh no, these don't. Because if you remember, sausages I don't want to put you off sausages, but sausages are made from the intestine. Oh, there you go. See? So can you see that that's linked? So I'm just going to quickly just cut that there, like that, just turn that off. Because the casing on sausages is actually like intestine sort of wrappers. So a lot of people say, oh, you know, they've never had offal before, which offal is all the innards, so the lungs, the brain, the heart, the liver, the kidneys, and they said, oh no, I'd never eat that, oh no, I'd never try that. And I asked my students, well, have you had a sausage roll? They're like, yeah. Well, I said, well, you've had offal then. So it's really good for you. And sausages are great, you know. So again, you can see that one's, if you get them from a butcher, they're always tied like that, but I'm just going to do that. I'm going to cook them in the oven, which I preheated for 30 minutes on 180, but if you're using smaller sausages, they'll need less time. If you're using frozen sausages, there'll be more. So that's going to be for 30 minutes to brown them and cook them, because I like to do that first, because otherwise if I find I cook them straight, they fall apart too much. And then whilst they're in the oven cooking, I can then get all my other ingredients together ready, and I can show you the other parts of the video. So I'll put these in the oven. That'll be 30 minutes. I'll wash my hands in a second. But of course, I've got to make sure that I'm properly apparelled for this, for my cowboy stew. So now that I'm all suited and booted, I can get cooking. Thank you, howdy. Excellent, I'll move on to the next bit. So take these sausages, careful with the heat. Take the sausages out of the oven. So they should be slightly browned. And you can wait until they're cool completely to chop them up, or you can be impatient like I am, and you can chop them whilst they're still hot as well. I'm just going to show you how I'd want them sort of diced up, and then put that on my apron there. Always have a dry, clean cloth. And then I like to cut them a little bit on the angle, so diagonally. So that's straight, vertical, that's horizontal, that's diagonal, that's an angle. So I'm just going to cut them at an angle, because no real reason really, just because they look nice. And remember, because this is a stew, you can cut your vegetables, you can cut your meat quite chunky, because it's going to be cooking for quite a while. So just look at those sausages there, that's roughly the size and sort of angle that I've cut them. I'm going to dice them all up and then go on to the next bits. Okay. Fry the red onions in 1 tablespoon of oil for about 4 or 5 minutes, or until softened. Add the sausages and then add 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 2 teaspoons of normal paprika and 1 teaspoon of cumin. Add that, stir it around for a couple of minutes. You're then at the stage where you add pretty much all of your ingredients now. So I've added my diced pepper, I've added my tin of beans, I'm going to add my 500 millilitres of beef stock. That was using 2 stock cubes to OXO, although there are other brands available. 500 ml of stock, and that's a 500 gram carton of passata, although a 400 gram tin of chopped tomatoes will do just as well. Nice and full, isn't it? So add all of that. Give it a nice stir. And that is going to be stewing on a low to medium heat, giving it a stir every now and then for 1 hour. Almost forgot. Also add your tablespoon of balsamic vinegar as well. That's going to sweeten as it slow cooks and make the stew nice dark and brown coloured. After it's had its hour, give it a good old stir. Some of it might be slightly sticking to the bottom, but that's no worries, because the nicest bits are the bits that are stuck to the bottom. Give it a bit of a taste. Give it a check. It should be nice and thickened by now as well. Check for salt. Oh my god. I'm so good at this. I ought to do it for a living. Oh wait, I do. Right, so get this ready to serve. So now you're ready to serve. So I've just cooked up some couscous, which is just putting some boiling water on some dry couscous. I'm just going to spoon myself. I'm putting this in a bowl because this seems to me like bowl food, soul food, bowl food. So lovely. This recipe serves 4, and even 4 on, you know, big appetites actually. It's very filling because of the beans. That'll probably be enough couscous for me. Until I have seconds. And get a couple of nice ladles of this stew. It smells amazing. I wish we had smell-o-vision. Right, So a few ladlefuls here, lovely. And as I say, a lot of people will have mash with this, but I love couscous. And couscous will obviously last longer. I'm going to have one more ladleful as well. Couscous will last longer in the cupboard than potatoes will in the stores. So like that, and then just tidying the plate. And then just a little optional extra. I'm going to have a dollop of natural yogurt. Yum. And just to make it look pretty, really, I'm just going to add an extra sprinkle of paprika. And that's it. That's my cowboy sausage and bean stew. Yeehaw!